Mino Lion Media presents Business First.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Business First with Sonia Aline. I am your host, and today we have the beautiful Sharon Keyser in our studio to talk about art and fashion and design. Welcome, Sharon.
Well, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. For a Wednesday.
For Wednesday, right? I know time is going so quickly. Well, you are the founder of SK Creations, which is a fashion and design house. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So SK Creations is my baby. I started it. It's been a while now, and it's actually evolved over the years. I have a background in sewing. I've been sewing since I was a young girl. So I started it to give myself an outlet for all of the things that I would make. And I started with more of the home decorating type of items. And I used to do like parties at people's homes. You know, they always wanted to order pillows and throws and comforters and that kind of thing. And so I spent a lot of time sewing back then. And then over time, I sort of came back to my first love, which was apparel. I started sewing apparel when I was in junior high school. And by high school, half of my wardrobe I had made myself. So I had kind of gotten away from it when I went off to college because I didn't have time or money to be buying fabric and so forth. But it sort of came full circle. And because I have such a strong passion for textiles, I really wanted to learn to make my own, design my own. And ultimately I did. So now I'm like steeped into fashion and SK Creations. That's primarily what it's all about. I do other things as well, but the fashion is probably my first love.
I want to go back to when you were a little girl. I read that you learned sewing from your great-grandmother. And so tell us a little bit about what that experience was like and why sewing.
Well, you know, it's funny. So my great-grandmother, periodically throughout the summer, she would have myself and two of my cousins, who were all close in age, stay with her during the day. And she had a beautiful old Singer sewing machine, which I wish I had this, to this day. But she used to sew all the time. And my family used to have all of our Christmas dinners at her house. And so with all the women in the family, everybody helped out in the kitchen, and we all had aprons. And my grandmother's buffet, the main drawer, had all these aprons in it that my grandmother had made over the years. So we knew, grab an apron and, start helping out. And so in order to keep myself and my cousins occupied, my grandmother actually had us, she decided she was going to show us how to sew. And so she started off with our making our own aprons. I guess she saw something in whatever it was that I was doing, because she then decided that she wanted me to make some pillows, specifically some red velvet pillows, because she had this beautiful red velvet fabric. And it was something that she wanted to have on her sofa for the Christmas holiday when all the family got together. And I did not like it. I couldn't understand why she was asking me to do this. It was like, really?
I thought you were going to say you loved it. I thought you were going to say, oh.
I had no interest in making pillows, and I just kind of, pouted about it. But what are you going to do? It's my great grandmother after all. So I made them. She was very pleased with it. And I guess it was just meant to be, because after I made them, I just kind of got the bug. And I didn't do pillows at that time. I started doing clothing, and, I would make little outfits that I would wear junior high school, and I would go to camp during the summer. My cousins and I started going to camp when we were pretty young. We'd go every summer to a camp in Pennsylvania for about a month. And I started making my little short sets and things that I would take to camp. So it just grew, but it started with her just giving us a way to keep us out of her hair, I guess, for the day. And then her having me do these pillows that I wasn't crazy about doing, but once I did it, I realized, I kind of like this. So it just kind of went from there.
I've met a lot of people in the fashion industry, a lot of people who are really passionate about fashion. I've only met a couple who really love textiles. Mm-hmm. And so what is it about textiles that you have a passion for?
Well, First of all, I guess I am a tactile person, so I like to feel things. I have a love of wood and marble. I just like to feel things, and textiles falls into that category. And I used to go years ago. I know I'm dating myself, but there was there is a G Street fabric store that is currently in Rockville, Maryland, but it started off in this old building in downtown DC, and it had 3 or 4 floors, and it was a very narrow building with an elevator that couldn't hold more than like 3 people at a time, with one of those gates that you had to pull across, to go. But every floor was like a treasure trove of fabric, and depending on which floor you were on, that determined what kind of fabric it was. So it went from silks to wool, and, just being able to go there and just experience all of it and feel it and see it. It just, I don't know, it just did something to me. And I also like design. I like things that are bold and vibrant, and being able to marry the bold designs with beautiful fabric, just the texture of the fabric was something that I realized eventually was something that I wanted to do. So that's how I ended up designing my own fabrics.
Mm-hmm. So you have a range of product. You have dresses, backpacks, hats, sweatshirts. Mm-hmm. What's the inspiration for the things that you create? For the fabrics that you create? So
I think that first and foremost, because I do love fashion, and I think it should not only be beautiful in its own way, but it should also be practical. Not everything has to be practical, but, functional. And so I really sort of start with the things that I know people would enjoy just about every day. It doesn't have to be necessarily be a special occasion kind of thing. It can be something that you might just want to grab on a Tuesday,
Right.
That is what caused me to sort of branch out and offer a variety of things. And I do have customers who tend to gravitate to a specific type of product. So every time they order something, it's something in that category. And I think it's nice to be able to offer a variety, but not only that, but I do tend to get bored quickly. So it keeps me interested if I'm introducing something new.
That's what I've always loved about fashion designers. For most of us, we have like our special occasion clothing, or we'll pull out something for a particular day. But like you said, for designers, Tuesday, like any day, is a day to dress up and be fabulous. Yeah. Is that something that you hope to impart to your clients, or do you feel that you do impart that to your clients?
Oh, most definitely. My recent collection that I launched, the ladies bomber jackets, they're satin for one thing. So of course they have some sheen to it, and the designs sort of pop, it's bright and bold. And I've had people say, I would really love to get one of those jackets, but I don't know where I would wear it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Wherever you want to, you could throw it on with some jeans. You could put on a nice black dress, some leggings, anything. You could dress it up. You could dress it down. You don't have to wait for an occasion to wear something. If you really love it, just wear it, and you'll feel good about it. So,
right, because sometimes the occasion never comes.
Exactly. I have friends who let things stay in their closet with the price tag on for months, and I'm like, what are you waiting for? So. Yeah.
I used to do that. I think I've stopped more recently. I think just kind of coming out of COVID mm-hmm. and having thrown away a lot of things and wanting, looking forward to coming back out in the world. I feel that way. So I have a great appreciation for designers who inspire us in that way. Is there anyone that publicly that we would know that you say that you love their sense of style? Or that you think that they have a great sense of style?
Well, I mentioned this recently on the Wardrobe Boss podcast, but I really like Janelle Monáe's sense of style because, it's very fashion forward, but also classic. She sort of mixes some things that people of different ages could relate to. There are others out there. I think like Tracy Ross, I think she has a very nice style. It just depends because I do tend to like a wide range of things. There are a lot of people out there who may lean more towards sort of what you call the ethnic types of designs. And I used to work quite extensively with like African waxcloth and mud cloth and, the kinds of textiles that you would usually find in Africa, but then going all the way to like the Dupioni silks, So the styles really vary for me. So there isn't any one particular style or even person that I can say nails it for me. It's just a variety. I'm just enjoying all of it.
Is there somebody that you would like to dress, and not in a bad way, but just someone that you've seen and say, you know what, I think my style would look good on them, or I think my clothes would really accent what they do?
Oh, well, let's see. I'm sure I look at movies or TV at some point and I'll say, you know what, I wish I could dress them. But unfortunately, I can't say that anyone specific is coming to mind, but give me someone who is fashion forward and who is not afraid of color, not afraid to do something that is original, something that is unique, and I'll be very happy to style them.
Right. And I guess that is the best kind of customer, right? Someone who's not afraid and willing to try some new things. Exactly. What's your favorite textile to work with?
I love wovens. So I would say like linen, things that you can actually, when you feel it, you can actually feel, it's not just a seamless fabric. It's something that you can sort of feel the intricacies of. So something that tends to be maybe a little more nubby, things like some wools, even some of the silks, because the silks can sometimes have its own little knobs woven within it. So I think the ones that tend to give you more than just a flat surface, they actually have some character that is woven within them.
And you use them across your designs? Would you use a style like that or a fabric like that across the designs that you do?
I've used everything. I'm of the mind that you can never have too much fabric.
And so where are you based for people who are interested in, do you have a brick and mortar, or is everything online?
Everything is online currently. I used to, and it may happen again, but I used to have some retail locations. There was a time when I had some kiosks in a couple of the local malls. I wouldn't necessarily do that again because you're sort of tied to whatever the mall chooses. Like if the mall is open, you have to be open, and they have, certain rules you have to follow. But it did sort of spark the idea about whether or not I would like to have my own boutique at some point. And, eventually that might happen. But currently everything is online, and that seems to work pretty well.
What would you say about, I've had these conversations with several of my friends who, we talk about how training and attitudes toward work has changed. The training has changed. People today take more risks in terms of, if they feel they're ready to do something, they will do it. And wondering, what are your thoughts around fashion today in terms of what people are presenting? And not saying that it's good or bad, but just if you have some thoughts around what's actually happening with new designers and how they're presenting themselves today.
Yeah, well, I would say people are definitely taking risks. And I think there's also a lot of emphasis on things that you might not think in terms of style when you first see it. New York Fashion Week, for example, some of the designs that were on the runway, it took a lot of creative imagination to come up with, but it was beautiful. I mean, even things that are not thought of when you think of the fashion world, like in the accessories market. I remember one designer that was in the same show that I was in actually markets something that looks more like sort of like feathers that you either wear on your head or wear on your neck or whatever. But the way that they fashioned it, it was absolutely gorgeous. And I'm sure it appealed to a lot of people, but there just seems to be no limit. And if you can pull something together that is original and it actually can complement whoever's wearing it, then those are the risks that I see designers taking. And I think that they're pulling it off. So yeah, these days, I think there's something for everyone, even if you haven't seen it yet. You know, you may not even be able to imagine it yet, but it's likely out there, and someone's going to provide it.
Yeah, I think that's what's amazing about fashion today as well. Like, there are no restrictions. And to your point, I do believe like there's something for everyone. No one's left out. You know, I remember looking at fashion magazines and shows, and you could only hope to wear something that you saw a model in, or you'd want to get to that point so you could wear what that model wore. And today there's a lot more freedom and versatility to do that. What is your advice to people just now entering the field?
I think that, I realize that it can be a bit intimidating, a bit overwhelming, but I would say if you do have any fear about it, just face the fear, because everyone is expressing their own uniqueness, and you may not see what you're thinking about out there. You may be the first one to do it. So I say, go ahead and do it, and just take a chance, because if you don't, ultimately you might regret not taking it. And even with myself, with New York Fashion Week, when the opportunity presented itself to me, I had to sit back for a minute and think, ooh, am I going to do this? And I just decided, you know what? I am open to whatever it brings. I just want to soak up the experience. I went into it with no preconceived notions, and I just said, you know what? I'm just going to give them me, and we'll see how it goes. And so I think, it definitely took a degree of courage to do it, because in some sense, I've stepped out of my comfort zone, but it's rewarding too. And so I'm glad that I decided to do it. So I would say for anyone who is even contemplating the smallest thing, just do it, take that first step, because one step leads to another, and you never know where you may end up.
Absolutely. So if we'd like to support your fashions, we can find you online. You can give us your website again.
Okay. So it's skcreations.com.
Okay.
And then you can find me on social media. It's SK Creations LLC, and that's on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your gifts and your talents with the audience. And we look forward to following you and seeing what else you come up with, all your new creations.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for having me.
You are welcome. And thank you all for listening. We'll be back again next week with another great guest. Take care.
The Business First podcast is hosted and produced by Sonia Aline. Associate producer, Ariel Mancivo. Executive producer, Ken Johnson. Find the Business First podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. And on social at business_first_podcast on IG. The Business First podcast is a Mean Old Line Media production.